Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News This Morning.
Good morning. It is 6:29 on this Friday. I'm Will Puckett. We are finally in February, which is a sight to be seen, but a little bit of winter weather falls this morning on much of eastern Kentucky, so let's bring Brandon in. And Brandon, this early morning snow that some might be seeing isn't going to stick around for long because we're going to be above freezing today.
Right. Now, here's the big thing. Some of the air temperatures are already above freezing this morning, but it's the ground temperatures that are still below freezing, so that's what we're watching for, especially if you see any rainfall. It's probably going to be freezing rain in your area, so just keep that in mind as you travel. Let's get into the cameras to get you out the door this morning. We take a look at McKee down toward closer to I-75 anyway. That's the closest camera we have down that way. And you see just a little bit of wet roads there. Can't tell on this camera if it's a little bit of snow or it could be a little bit of freezing rain. So just be careful regardless. Up on US 119, Whitesburg Pine Mountain, no major issues it looks like up there at this point. Last few hours. Outside WYMT, we had a little bit of light snow here earlier, but I don't see a whole lot of activity on the roads right there outside of our station. Across the region, last 6 hours, lots of moisture, but a lot of it not reaching the ground. Winter weather advisory continues until 10 o'clock for most of the area. And you see there, we're going to continue to see temperatures across the board from anywhere from 20 to almost 40 down toward Monticello. I'll have the rest of the forecast coming up here in just a few minutes.
All righty, Brandon, thank you. Well, President Trump says there will be no funding deal to keep government open in 2 weeks if it does not contain money for the border wall. The president still insists on getting a down payment for the southern border wall, but House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says he will not. The president has not ruled out declaring a national emergency to get the wall funding.
I would do that. I would do that. We're going to see what happens on February 15th.
Now, this latest back and forth over border security comes as U.S. Customs and Border Patrol agents seized a record-breaking 254 pounds of fentanyl at a port of entry in Arizona. 395 pounds of meth were also seized. Meanwhile, organized crime finding a way around security or border security. Patrol agents discovered a new tunnel under construction in Hidalgo, Texas that would have gone under the border wall. They brought pictures to show President Trump during his recent visit. The tunnel is reportedly almost impossible to see standing near the Rio Grande. That's because it sits at the bottom of a 30-foot embankment, so you can only see it if you are on the river. Well, in other news this morning, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell is pushing back on Democrats for their proposal to make Election Day a federal holiday.
Their bill would make Election Day a new paid holiday for government workers and created an additional brand new paid leave benefit for up to 6 days for any federal bureaucrat who decides they'd like to hang out at the polls during any election. A power grab that's smelling more and more like exactly what it is.
McConnell argued that the bill would victimize every American taxpayer by pouring their money into expensive new subsidies that do not ever pass the laugh test. Well, Virginia Governor Ralph Northam faces backlash after voicing support for a state measure to significantly loosen late-term abortion restrictions. Shortly after his interview, several prominent Republican leaders sharply criticized his comments. In a news conference yesterday, he said opponents should agree to disagree.
I do find, that how my comments, I did answer that question. I regret that those comments have been mischaracterized. The personal insults toward me, I really find disgusting. So again, as I said in my comments just earlier, we can agree to disagree.
The controversial bill is currently tabled in Virginia's legislature. Well, the Kentucky State Police are graduating 35 new cadets today, and Governor Matt Bevin is set to speak to the crowd at the graduation ceremony. It all takes place at the Buck Run Baptist Church in Frankfort starting at 11 in the morning. The governor, Kentucky State Police Commissioner Richard Sanders, KSP command staff, as well as family and friends of graduating cadets will all be in attendance. Governor Bevin's administration has fired Lieutenant Governor Janine Hampton's chief of staff, prompting a letter from Hampton that says she is appointing her former employee to his previous position. The Lexington Herald-Leader reports Hampton's chief of staff, Steve Nippers, said he was notified Tuesday that he was being terminated without cause. That prompted Hampton to file a document with the Secretary of State's office saying she was appointing Nipper back to the same position. Well, a Republican whistleblower in Kentucky is facing a lawsuit, and it was filed by the people she claims sexually harassed her. They say she broke a confidentiality agreement. Representatives Jeff Hoover, Michael Meredith, and former Representative Jim DeCesare, along with several others, agreed to pay the woman $110,000 so that the allegations would not become public. But according to this lawsuit, the day after the agreement was reached, she told her supervisor at the Capitol. The three men want back the $110,000 that was paid for the woman's silence. Well, the question is who should pay for legal fees for gay and straight couples who sued Rowan County Clerk Kim Davis, the state of Kentucky, or Kim Davis herself? That question is now before a federal appeals court in Cincinnati. Hillary Thornton explains the arguments on who should pay the bill.
We think it's time for this litigation to end.
However, nearly 4 years later, there are still some aspects being debated. Those argued today in front of a 3-judge panel inside of the United States Appeals Court in Cincinnati. The first case dealing with if the former Rowan County Clerk Kim Davis had immunity.
State sovereign immunity applies because Kim Davis acted for the state in issuing marriage licenses. But we also believe that Kim Davis didn't violate anyone's constitutional rights, meaning she should have personal immunity or qualified immunity herself.
But attorneys for some of the couples disagreeing with those points, saying that because she did not issue marriage licenses, she did not act as a state agent because she didn't comply with the state statute. The second case argued today is where it gets a little bit more confusing. It deals with who is responsible to pay attorney's fees incurred by some of the couples challenging Davis. A district judge previously ruling that the Commonwealth is responsible for the roughly $225,000. However, Governor Matt Bevin, who does still personally support Davis, does not think the state should pay that bill. Attorneys for the governor's office saying that her local policy stood in direct conflict with her statutory obligation. Meanwhile, the attorney for Davis and the clerk's office feels the state is still responsible due to the prior administration.
Governor Beshear created this problem, and so the state should have to pay any attorney's fee award that comes from it.
Kim Davis and the governor's office are trapped in a game of hot potato over who pays, and the truth is we think the wrongdoing started at the Rowan County Clerk's office and it should end there.
Hillary Thornton, WYMT Mountain News.
Now, Floyd County Utility has been denied a rate increase. Southern Water District proposed a 33% rate increase for customers last summer. The Public Service Commission issued a release yesterday saying the utility could not provide reliable information to justify the rate hike. They stated, quote, Southern Water lost a number of financial records when it switched billing systems and failed to archive records from the previous system. Well, yesterday was a special day for Letcher County volunteer fire departments. Each time they are called out, they put their lives on the line for their community. And one Kentucky company decided it was time to show them a little appreciation. WYMT's Lauren McCourt was in Letcher County to capture the happy moment.
In a moment's notice, their help arrives.
We get to go out and help people in their time of need.
But sometimes our heroes may need help too.
It's been very hard making ends meet financially for all the departments across the county.
It's no secret that nonprofits struggle getting the funds they need. But at the end of the day, there's always that one good Samaritan willing to help.
At Kentucky Power, we want to support the communities we serve.
Which, in the case of volunteer fire departments in Letcher County, it happens to be AEP Foundation.
So this is a grant from the American Electric Power Foundation for $61,160.
This money will be split up between each of the 8 departments in Letcher County to go towards replacing old gear.
Most of our gear is over the 10-year limit.
With some new equipment.
A set of gear can cost anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000.
And thanks to Kentucky Power, each of the stations will be able to afford it.
That'll be 40 sets of gear for the departments here in Letcher County.
Helping them continue keeping the community safe. In Letcher County, Lauren McCourt, WYMT Mountain News.
Now, each year, the AEP Foundation and Kentucky Power awards grants to nonprofits right here in Eastern Kentucky. Well, a portion of $1.2 million from the Watershed Foundation is heading to the Kentucky River Regional Animal Shelter. Perry County was one of 3 counties in the state picked by the Kentucky Humane Society for the project. The money will help with training volunteers. It will give the shelter the ability to hold more spay and neuter clinics.
This is not just for a shelter, this is for our communities too, and it will be for Perry County. So a lot of the programs that we already have is spread out over 4 counties, so now we'll be able to focus more on those 3 counties and use this grant to focus more on Perry.
The Love 120 project has a roughly 10-year goal to have an impact in all 120 Kentucky counties. We have more information on how you can help the shelter on our website at WYMT.com. Coming up on Mountain News this morning, not many details about the Super Bowl halftime show. We will tell you why.
The forecast is going to start to head in the right direction later today, but you could see some snow or anything else this morning on your way out the door. I'll have the latest forecast in about 2.5 minutes.